The Three Tests of Amina. In the quiet village of Morocco, nestled between the rolling hills of northern Nigeria, there was a long-standing tradition: only men could become the village leader, or Saki. For generations, the Saki had been chosen from the bravest and most respected men, and no woman had ever challenged the rule until Amina. Amina was not like the other girls in the village. While they were content with learning household duties and preparing for marriage, Amina yearned for something more. Her father, Malik, was a respected elder, and from a young age, she would sit by his side, listening to the discussions between the councilmen. She learned about diplomacy, justice, and the struggles of leadership, absorbing every lesson as if it were her birthright. Her sharp mind, quick wit, and unyielding spirit did not go unnoticed. While some admired her intelligence, others scoffed at her dreams of leadership. The current Saki, a man named Abubakar, was one of those who dismissed her ambitions. Abubakar was an imposing man with a sharp temper and little patience for change. He often laughed off Amina's questions during council meetings, belittling her in front of the elders. But Amina did not give up. She knew that her destiny was greater than the narrow path set before her. The time came when the village faced a grave crisis. A drought had dried up the crops, and the river that once flowed abundantly was reduced to a trickle. With hunger on the rise, the villagers began to lose faith in Abubakar's leadership. Whispers spread that the Saki was too old, too set in his ways, to guide them through the hard times. Sensing an opportunity, Amina stepped forward during a village assembly. Her voice, though soft, carried a weight of conviction that silenced the crowd. "I wish to lead this village," she said, her eyes locking with Abubakar's. "Give me a chance to prove that I am worthy." Laughter erupted from some of the men, but Amina stood tall, her heart racing. She would not let their mockery break her resolve. Abubakar, his pride stung by the challenge, glared at her before addressing the crowd. "You, a mere girl, wish to be Saki." His voice dripped with disdain. "You must pass the 3 tests if you want to prove your worth. But beware, no one has ever succeeded." The villagers gasped. The 3 tests of leadership were ancient and near impossible to complete. It was said that only someone truly destined for greatness could pass them. The elders nodded in agreement, acknowledging the tradition that few dared to speak of. Amina's heart pounded in her chest. She knew the tests were meant to scare her away, but she refused to back down. With fire in her eyes, she accepted the challenge. The first test, the wisdom of the river. For the first test, Amina was sent to the great river, which had all but dried up. She was to find a way to bring its waters back to the village. The journey was long and treacherous, and she had little to guide her other than the stories her father had told her as a child. Upon reaching the riverbed, Amina knelt by the dry earth, her hands running through the parched soil. She closed her eyes, praying to the river spirit, Ocean, who was said to guard the waters. Days passed with no sign of the river's return. Her hope began to wane, but then, on the 3rd night, she dreamt of an old woman who told her to listen to the whispers of the wind. The next morning, Amina followed the breeze and discovered a hidden spring deep within the forest. The water flowed from beneath a rock, untouched by the drought. Without hesitation, she used her knowledge of irrigation, learned from watching her father, and carved a path to lead the water back to the village. When she returned, the villagers marveled at the sight of fresh water flowing from the river once again. They began to whisper amongst themselves, questioning whether she was truly chosen. Abu Bakr, seeing the villagers gritted his teeth. But the first test was only the beginning. The second test, the strength of the lion. For the second test, Amina was tasked with proving her physical strength. She was to face the most feared creature in the village's surrounding wilderness, the great lion of Morocco. Many brave men had gone in search of the lion, but none had returned. It was said that only the strongest could survive an encounter with the beast. Amina knew that brute strength alone would not win this battle. Armed with only a spear and her wits, she ventured deep into the forest where the lion was known to roam. The days were long and filled with fear, but she pressed on, determined not to let doubt creep into her heart. One evening, as the sun set and the shadows grew long, she heard a low growl. The lion emerged from the bushes, its golden eyes locking onto her. It was a massive, majestic creature, its muscles rippling beneath its fur as it moved with deadly grace. Amina stood her ground, her hand trembling on the spear. The lion circled her, sensing her fear. But instead of attacking, she dropped the spear and knelt down, bowing her head in submission. She spoke softly, telling the lion that she meant no harm. She had learned from her father that true strength was not in overpowering, but in understanding. The lion, to her astonishment, stopped its advance. It gazed at her for what felt like an eternity, then turned and disappeared into the shadows. Amina returned to the village unharmed, and the elders declared that she had passed the second test, not by force, but by wisdom and courage. The third test, the heart of the people. The final test was the hardest. Amina had to earn the trust and loyalty of the villagers. For this test, she was given no guidance, only told that she must unite the people in a time of growing unrest. The drought had caused famine, and many in the village had begun to turn against each other, hoarding what little food remained. Fights broke out in the marketplace, and divisions grew between families. Amina knew that if the village continued down this path, it would destroy itself from within. She spent days visiting each home, listening to the villagers' fears and frustrations. She organized communal meals where the food was shared equally, and spoke of unity and hope. Slowly, the villagers began to see her not as a mere girl, but as a leader who truly cared for their well-being. But Abu Bakr, desperate to maintain his power, spread rumors that Amina was trying to steal the leadership by deceit. He rallied a group of angry men to confront her in the village square. On the day of reckoning, the tension in the air was thick. Abu Bakr and his men stood on one side, while Amina stood alone on the other. The villagers watched in silence, waiting to see what would happen. Amina did not flinch. She stepped forward and spoke from her heart, reminding the villagers of their shared struggles and the strength that came from standing together. Her words moved them, and one by one, the people began to stand by her side, abandoning Abu Bakr. In that moment, Abu Bakr knew he had lost. The elders, witnessing the scene, declared that Amina had passed the final test. She had won not through violence, but through compassion and unity. A new dawn. Amina was crowned the first female Saki of Morocco, and under her leadership, the village thrived once more. The drought ended, the crops flourished, and the people, united by her vision, lived in harmony. Amina had proven that true leadership was not about strength or fear, but about wisdom, courage, and the heart of the people. Her name would be remembered for generations as the Saki who broke tradition and led with grace, forever changing the fate of her village.